Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Prophecy Update. As always, it's our desire to bring the events that are happening in the world from a biblical perspective and also a prophetic perspective. So thanks for joining us this week. This week we want to continue in part 2 of the Great Reset's economic impact on us. And like I mentioned last week, we talked about the different facets of how the setup of the one world economy is going to affect us. Now again, let me put the caveat on this always. We could be raptured at any point in time. But the longer we're here and the closer the rapture is to the tribulation, the more setup we are going to see economically. And it's going to be important for us to understand, because not only do we have to have in our minds that we could be raptured, we have to be able to prepare for what is coming ahead if the Lord desires us to go through some birth pains before the tribulation sets in. Again, we're only promised to avoid the tribulation, the 7-year tribulation, but we're not promised to not see the setups and some of the hardships and the birth pains that will happen prior to the tribulation. And so that's what we talked about last week, of the economic impact it's going to make on us if we're still here for some time. And so I want to continue in this discussion about that. So just to refresh our minds, the Great Reset, the men of Davos, the globalists, the global elites, and all the countries of the world, their plan is to economically consolidate all power and money to just these global elites. And they will have all the global power, global control, and have all the global money. And it's like Scripture says last week that we pointed out, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And this is the ultimate form of evil that the love of money will show and demonstrate. That they will control the money, take it from us, and have all the money piled up to serve them while we all go poor. And we talked about that last week. So I want to continue. I gave you 5 economic impacts that might come your way. And I use the word might, again, to hold off on the point that you might be raptured and none of this that I'm saying is going to make an impact on you. But again, it possibly could if the Lord tarries and delays his coming. And the closer, I said, the rapture is to the tribulation, the more you're going to see. And unfortunately, the more it's going to economically impact you. Now, why do we study this? Well, simple. We need to know the signs of the times, but we need to know how to make wise decisions in our life economically. And if we're going to be here for something like that, and change to a digital currency and a change to international monetary system instead of the dollar, well, then you need to know this information to make wise economic decisions. And so it's imperative for us to know these things. So like we saw last week, and we discussed, they're causing deficits on purpose. We talked about that, of why, according to modern monetary theory, why they're okay with having debt. We talked about that under modern monetary theory, that they have no problem with printing off as much money as they need to print off, and that's why they're doing it. That's why the Biden administration is doing it. We talked about how they're going to usher in higher taxes and more taxes under modern monetary theory, and we talked about how it's not that they need the tax money, it's that they're trying to take money from you and club you to penalize you for having too much. So it's the idea of taking yours and giving it to others. It's not, because if you can print off money, you don't need a tax revenue, okay? We talked about how they're going to force us to a digital currency last time, and it's going to be an international, global digital currency. They're going to destroy the dollar. We talked about that last time. So again, if you missed it, go back and watch the first video, kind of get caught up with where we're at right now. And lastly, we talked about how they're going to destroy the free market capitalistic economic system and replace it with what we call stakeholder capitalism. And we went into that last week. and how it's going to affect businesses and customers with an ESG score and all of that. Again, I'm not going to go back into that today, but that's the stuff we talked about last time. So if you haven't seen part 1, you got to go back and get that under your belt. And then here we are, we're going to pick up with number 6, another economic impact that's coming our way. And so with number 6, let's talk about what the Great Reset wants to do. They flat out come out and say they do not want you to own anything. They say you will own nothing and be happy about it. So the idea is they want to abolish private property by 2030. I believe that will come sooner. They're working on this in overtime, trying to get this accomplished. And see, the idea here is that the elites want to control the economy. They don't want a free market economy where they have no control. That's their problem. What they want is what's called, in their view, a circular economy. Basically, the idea is that you rent everything. You don't own anything, you just simply rent it. Housing will be so astronomical that you won't be able to afford housing, is the idea. You'll only be able to rent it. It's kind of like some things I've seen so far with this idea of renting. I've seen in hotels that you can rent clothes. Now, I don't know who in the world would want to do that, but they want to eliminate you carrying your bags and luggage, and then you just go to the hotel and you just rent the clothing while you're there. I think that's absolutely gross. I would never do that, and because how many hundreds of other people rented those clothes? So it seems crazy, but they're trying that out. And that's how you'll see the economy. It's a circular economy. You just rent it, and when you're done, you give it back to the economy. It circles back to where you got it. And again, they're going to make housing so unaffordable that no one will be able to really own anything. They will force people to go green on their house, which, putting solar panels, energy efficient, windows, all this other stuff, and make it very expensive for you to upgrade your house to a greenhouse. And they're going to say, well, if you can't upgrade it, then we'll buy it from you and you can rent back to us, and we'll make your house green for you. That will be how the deal is cut. And they're going to force everybody in real estate to go green. That's just the way it is. And people don't have the money for this. So the big corporations are the only ones that have the money, and they will be buying up real estate like there's no tomorrow. It's the same thing the big corporations are doing as far as buying farmland. They're making it impossible for the small farmer to be able to farm on this land. So the big corporations come in, they buy it, and they can be ESG compliant and put basically everyone out of work to where no one owns land. The big corporations will do it through corporate fascism. And so, that's kind of the idea when they're going green. Like, they want this green fertilizer for farmers to use and basically eliminate all the other fertilizers they use. So you have to only use their product, which is green fertilizer. Well, it's going to put everyone out of business. People won't be able to afford it. Furthermore, when they do things like this, if you don't comply with greening up your house or whatever it might be, buying a greenhouse or selling a greenhouse, the banks will not loan you any money, or any investment firms or government will not give you any money if you're trying to buy a house that's not green, or you're trying to sell your house that's not green. They will make you have a green house. This is where they're going. So eventually, no one will be owners anymore. They will not be able to keep up the rules and regulations of owning a home or a property or a commercial property. That's how they're going to push people out of owning private property. They'll just make it so expensive to own something that you don't want to do it. You just rather rent, and the government will buy it from you. Eventually, if you don't comply, if you don't go green, if you don't march according to the narrative, they're going to kick you out of your house, because they're not going to have people that rent from them who are going against the government. They might stick us somewhere in some apartments downtown or something like that, but you won't be able to live in your home. And again, this is all a possibility. I'm not saying it's going to necessarily happen, but this is what they're projecting. And again, we don't know if we're going to be here for this, but this is what they're saying. So I'm giving you the worst case scenario in what they want to do. And so the idea is, well, you can't afford your home, you're going against the narrative, we're sorry. Here are these places that you can live, kind of like a camp, is the idea, because you don't go along with the narrative. And do not think for a moment they will not put people in camps. Eventually they will, if this continues to go unabated. That's the problem. Nothing's stopping this. Furthermore, they will make products very cheaply. They're going to be made from recyclables. And because of that, the things that you buy will wear out quickly, break, whatever. They're not going to be like in the old days where a washing machine lasted 30 years, or a dryer lasted 30 years, or an oven did. Everything is going to be made out of cheap recyclables. And it's going to break down, and nothing will hold itself together. The quality of your products are going to go down. And that's how they're going to rent them out to you, and you're going to turn them back in to be recycled, and they're going to be made into more cheap products. It's a very utilitarian mindset for products. You won't have things of value. The elimination of nice things, of having nice things and collectibles and stuff like that will be eliminated. If you look at communist regimes, there's no nice things in their culture. There's no collectibles per se. These people are trying to eke out a living and get their next meal. That's the idea, that they're going to be very little nice products. There will only be utilitarian products. Nothing really of value. Only what is needed, right? So the idea is the death of shopping is really what's coming. And right now we're seeing that the death of shopping is happening. No one really goes to a brick and mortar building anymore. They buy everything online. A lot of people just order stuff and have it delivered. That's the new trend. So but really where it's going is the death of shopping. You're just going to be able to buy things that are utilitarian. And the elites, of course, will decide what's in our best interest for the collective and force that on us. So if they say, hey, your collection of whatever doesn't fit our narrative of society, then we're not going to allow that to be purchased anymore. So say like guns or something like that, or bullets or something like that. That's going to be one of the things they decide, well, that has no value, and so we're going to eliminate that because that's not a utilitarian product. Why would you need a gun? Again, that's what they're saying. You see how it goes? And they're going to deem other products that way as well, whatever that might be. They're going to deem that's a value and that's not a value. They will make all decisions. Instead of the markets and the free market system allowing itself to say these items are what people say is valuable, these items are what people say are not valuable. They will not let the market decide. The elites will decide what's important and what is not. It's pretty scary, but it's a complete control of our economy. They will decide what's the best interest for us. Okay? Not what you think, but what they think. They'll tell business owners what to make, what to sell, how much to sell it at, how much to make it, and when to make it. They'll control everything as far as producing these items. And the UN will be weaponized to govern private businesses. And they will do it through what they call Integrating Task Force on Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, TCFD. Basically, it's a UN task force. And basically, they will get into our government and the governments around the world and basically make sure that the governments of the world are following the UN. It will be, in essence, like a governmental auditor, on business that requires assessments and disclosures of potential financial impacts. So it's an auditor kind of thing, and that's where Roman imperialism will come into our financial markets because of that. So business owners basically are going to have no choice at all. So in this period of time in which they're trying to ramp this thing up, they pretty much could put anyone out of business that doesn't comply with their ESG scores, save the planet, wokeism, affirmative action requirements, and whatnot. Basically, you have to comply, or these auditors from the UN will basically shut you down. And so if you fail to comply, you might lose your business, or you might lose your insurance. So if you lose your insurance, you lose your license, and then you lose your business or something like that. That's how it's going to work. And so this is the plan. I know it doesn't sound good, but this is what they want to do. They've been wanting to destroy small businesses, and they have done a good job, but the small businesses will not be able to stay up with the ESG compliance scores, the environmental, social, and governance. And we talked about that last time. That basically is going to eliminate small businesses and medium businesses, and so there's no competitors. It's all a monopoly, and they're basically going to drive everyone out of business through regulations. And that's why people won't own anything. It'll all be a corporate fascism that's going on. So that brings us to number 7, another economic impact. Like I mentioned before, they want to control the farming. Okay, and they're doing this right now, but the agenda is to destroy farming via regulations, via restricting of water, or paying farmers to plow their fields under. They're going to seize the seizure of cattle land and farmlands for the environment, for eco-friendly, right? They don't want people producing food. They want to control the production of food and its distribution. Again, more control. And basically the mindset with people is we're going to control the food because there's a lot of useless eaters. And basically you're going to see mass starvation around the world. Now we know that because of what the passages in the book of Revelation talk about in chapter 6. There's famines. And so they're going to control this food and basically cause famines on purpose. Food shortages on purpose. And so they're going to attack the farming. They're eliminating farming on a local level and make it basically a corporate endeavor, a corporate fascist endeavor with a partner with the government. They're going to have to use sustainable fertilizer if you're going to farm. How about this? No gas tractors. They're going to pay farmers not to grow crops and just allow the land to go fallow. This is how they're going to do it. This is what they're doing right now, and they're going to eliminate farming. And they're going to eliminate not only just farming, but even the cattle industry as well. That's on their agenda. So remember, if you can control food, you can control people. Okay, number 8. They want to destroy our wealth via governmental spending. Okay? So in their fantasy world of modern monetary theory, they believe inflation is not from printing too much money, which it is, but it's due to the players of the economy overspending, is their mindset. Really? Wow. So here's the thing. You and I are the players in the economy, as is the government in their mindset, okay, under modern monetary theory. However, the overspending is done on our part and not theirs, okay? So remember, they want to keep a certain amount of debt. They believe debt is good. I know that sounds weird, but they do believe this under modern monetary theory. Now remember, under modern monetary theory, they actually want a certain level of national debt. They don't want it too small, they don't want it too big. Again, I don't know what big means in their scheme of things, but in their minds, you can actually have too much debt, and it will cause inflation to go levels to go very high. But the real issue is, no matter what, if you have debt, it's going to cause inflation. That's a problem. So because you have too much money chasing too few goods. So in their scheme, in their mindset, this twisted mindset, as you and I are players in the economy, and so is the government, they want us to stop our spending while the government, continues their spending. And they say that the government needs to spend to maintain the inflation number that they want. I know that sounds crazy. It is crazy, and it doesn't make any sense, but this is how these twisted people with a Romans 1 mind think like. They don't think straight. And so the idea is they're going to penalize you and I through taxes and regulations and basically stop us from spending, but allow themselves to spend like a drunk sailor on leave. They're just going to go hog wild, but they want us to stop our spending. So the idea is we'll destroy yours and my wealth. They're going to destroy so they can keep spending and keep the inflation level where they want it. I know that sounds crazy, but it's nuts, right? And basically what they're doing through this system is stealing our wealth. That's what they're doing. It is the greatest example in all of human history of a theft on this kind of level of taking from people who have it and who had earned it legitimately and taking it through governmental means. And it's going to happen globally. It's not just a region or a nation. It's going to be globally. They're going to take everything away from people. And they're going to make massive amounts of money, right? These global elites. And basically, they have to steal a nation's wealth and people's wealth, and they're going to control it all. So that brings me to number 9. They want to redistribute our wealth. So under modern monetary theory, this is how they're going to distribute it through a digital currency via taxes, okay? So the idea is kind of a Robin Hood tactic. You're going to take and steal from those who have wealth and give it to those they deem the underclass, okay? Now, they're not going to be able to take wealth from the uber rich because they are the uber rich. The uber rich has always figured out how to avoid this. So they're basically going to take the wealth from the middle class of all countries. That's where it's coming from. And then give it to whom they deem as the underclass nations and their underclass people. And so in their minds, they do not like wealth inequality. And wealth inequality is just because of the way we live, okay? This is the world, this reality. There's going to be wealth inequality. The world is fallen. And then the other thing is, too, at least in America and some Western nations, we provide an equal opportunity, but we cannot guarantee equal outcomes because typically equal outcomes are deemed the responsibility of the person. And it has to do with their IQs. It has to do with all kinds of things that's endemic to the person. Do they have a desire to succeed? There's been many books written on this. The reason people don't take advantage of the opportunities given to them is because, number one, they're lazy, and number two, they're immoral. There's been books written on this stuff. The reason people do bad economically, at least here in the West, in America, is because they're immoral. They get into things that just destroy them economically, right? Drugs, alcohol, wrong relationships, bad relationships, and it destroys them economically, right? That's what happens. And so no one wants to talk about that. They want to make it about race, right? But it's not about race. It's about morality. That's what really it's about. Hard work, things like that. Well, anyway, the left, the Babylonians, don't like wealth inequality. So in order to make it even for people, there will be more governmental programs that give free money away to the people they deem the underclass, and they'll have all these various social programs that they establish with our tax money. And so they're going to tax the middle class of all the countries, hardworking people, and give it to people who don't understand responsibility. They're going to give them free education, free this, free that, free medical, to people who typically are immoral and people who are typically lazy. I'm not saying that there's not legitimate people that need help. There is, and there are, okay? So let's just take that out of the equation. The majority of the people that they're going to be helping are freeloaders. That's it. They're just freeloaders. Are there legitimate ones? Of course. But for the most part, people are lazy and they don't understand hard work And they don't understand the principle, if you don't work, you don't eat. And so our money is going to be redistributed to those people, not just nationally, but globally. Okay? And here's the kicker. If you can just print off money, why don't they just print off money and provide all these social programs and give these people that free money that you just printed off? Why do they need to tax us and regulate us? Well, they don't need our taxes and they don't need our money. The reason is they are doing it on purpose to destroy our wealth. That's the whole point. If you can just print money, why would you need my taxes? It's to destroy our wealth. And Americans' wealth in America is something that the world prizes. They want to bring America down so that we all in America become dependent on the government, not just simply the United States government, but the one world government that's coming. They want a dependency on government. That's what the whole agenda is about. That brings me to number 10. They want to use money to leverage our behaviors. Okay? They're going to control us with money. So how so? Well, it's a way to get people to behave like unbelievers, secularists, humanists, or Babylonian, ungodly people. Okay? So what they're going to have is kind of a Babylonian, if you want to call it, syntax. Okay? Now, what do you mean by that? Well, I call it Babylon because it's coming straight from the devil. It's coming from the whore of Babel. Okay? So here's the idea. If you do not keep the laws, the precepts, the value systems of the whore of Babylon, that's the one world religion, if you don't keep that, if you don't, or you're not for stopping climate change, if you're not ESG compliant, if you know, you're not pro-LGBT or pro-transgender, whatever it might be, if you're not that, they're going to tax you to get control of your behavior. So you will get excessive taxes if you're not ESG compliant. If you don't have an electric car and you're running a gas car and you're running it through your big SUV, and they're going to tax you on doing that. They're going to tax you on how much gas you use or how far you have to drive, and tax the food that you want, like meat, or they'll limit you on food, limit you on gas, limit you on your consumption of things. All of that will be controlled. So basically, like say if you want to go out and buy a gun or buy some ammo, that's a sin tax, and they will tax it heavily. Just kind of like what they do with cigarettes, and even already what they do with guns and ammo. They just, it's a sin tax. And that's where they're going to get compliancy out of you. They'll just make it so expensive that the things you want to do will be out of reach. Again, if you want to drive across the United States, forget that. You're going to have too much carbon emissions, and you can't do that. We're only going to limit you to 300 miles or so or whatever. And again, it's the idea that the global elites know better than us, and they're going to tell us what's good for public health, public safety, public security, and whatnot. Okay? That's what it all boils down to. So the idea of the Great Reset is to create this new social contract with everybody, a new social global contract that affects every global person and affects what they do, how they live, what they consume, where they go, all of this in this one world economy. And then, like we said last time, it will be implanted on you through a chip. You will carry your economy on you. They will be able to track your buying and selling, your coming and going. Everything about you will be on your body. That's where it's going. All your health records, all your bank account, all your transactions will be right there on your electronic ID. And eventually you'll have a social credit score. It will be basically an ESG score. And based on how you score on that, they will either penalize you and punish you, or they will let you get to have a few things that are nice. or whatever it might be. It's completely Orwellian. It's an Orwellian nightmare, and unfortunately, this is where we're going. Imagine them being able to push a button and wipe out your whole banking, your whole savings account. Oh, where'd it go? We don't know, for non-compliance. Imagine them taking out money because you were not ESG compliant out of your bank. We're gonna tax you 10% of what you have in your savings. You see what's happening here? It's the control of the economy. You can shape the values and shape the behaviors of the people who are connected to the system. So all the global government has to do once the system is implemented is just make new tax codes or new regulations, and then they can manipulate people into whatever behavior they want. They have now found the ultimate system to get control of people, and it's through economics. So with that being said, like I said at the beginning, again, I don't know how much we're going to see of this. I know the end game, where it ends in the tribulation, and basically the whole world is in poverty, according to Revelation chapter 6. How much we see, I don't know. How much we go through, I don't know. But we have to have two narratives in our head. We could be raptured at any time, but I also could see a lot more. So if I'm going to see a lot more in that narrative, then I better be prepared economically for this. I better make wise decisions based on what they say they want to do. What does that mean for you economically? It may not mean anything. I don't know, but it may mean something. So you have to take that in, discern the signs of the times, take that before the Lord, and ask the Lord what He would have you to do economically. Again, that's between you and the Lord. I can't give you any economic advice. I can only tell you what they're planning to do. So with that being said, we'll take that to heart, understand it, and try to apply it as best we can. Before we go, let me make a few announcements. Remember, we're on now BitChute and Rumble, and you can find those channels. Follow the link there, and we'll be on there for the time until they finally censor us. I don't know if they will or not, but at least we have two platforms now that are available to us. And then also follow this other link for getting on our text alert system. We send out text alerts occasionally to tell people what's going on, what's happening, if we get shut down or we're using a new platform. So make sure you're on our text alert system. Follow that link, fill out the information. And then also prayerfully consider being a prayer partner and also a financial partner with us. We have a lot of needs, we get a lot of attacks, and we need all the help we can get. So if the Lord puts it on your heart to help us prayerfully or financially, that would be very much appreciated. And anyway, I'll leave you with this. As the Lord said, when you see these things begin to happen, the movement towards the one world government, the one world economy, look up, lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. God bless you. We'll see you next time.